back with Adult Buddy Finders. I'm Greenberry.
And I'm Kirsten. This is our bonus question.
So, something that came up in the interview very, very briefly is 50 Shades of Grey. So when we were at DomCon, that came up a lot. I actually have never watched it, but
Me
50
neither.
Shades of Grey kind of seems to polarize the community, at least in Los Angeles, that attended DomCon. That some folks say, like, actually it made BDSM very accessible to all, and other folks say it was kind of a stain on BDSM. So, do y'all have a hot take on 50 Shades of Grey?
Yes, we do.
That was hot.
I will confess that I have not read the book, and
Okay.
I've watched some of the film.
Okay.
But the general consensus, certainly in the UK, is that it's not a good depiction of BDSM.
Okay.
The dominant depiction, he's very domineering. He doesn't really. It's very manipulative, abusive. So it's bad in that respect, but it's good in the sense that it made BDSM more accessible and people wanted to talk about it and find out about it. So, and in fact, I have a funny story because my mum was reading 50 Shades of Grey when it came out.
Right.
And I was like, what are you reading? This must have come out like 15 years ago or something. And she was like, what are you? And she was like, oh, you should read it. You might learn a thing or two.
If only she knew.
Yeah.
So she
Yeah.
just
More than a thing.
Yeah, so I didn't say anything, but so yeah, it's a mixed bag, I would say.
You might
mixed
learn a thing or two from Mother.
I know. I didn't ask any more questions.
50 Shades of Grey, unfortunately, it does more harm than good. The only good that I see that came out of it was in getting people talking more about BDSM. But I see that as more of a broader cultural thing. That's 50 Shades is just part of that, of everyone starting to have these sort of communications more, which is good. We should be working to demystify sex generally and to normalize these experiences. But I think it's important to be normalizing good, healthy experiences and to highlight those and to also point out the ones that are damaging and hurtful and harmful. And from what I know of 50 Shades is that it tends to fall in those latter categories of being more harmful. I admittedly haven't read the whole thing. I read the original fan fiction years and years ago before it turned into 50 Shades.
Yes.
And I've read some excerpts. I've watched part of the film, but I couldn't get through it because it's actually just rubbish. It's really poorly done. But even the little bits that I could watch, I couldn't finish watching because I was like, this is ridiculous. It's horribly abusive. It's horribly manipulative in a way that made me feel icky. I'm like, this isn't fun. You know, there are so many wonderful ways to depict BDSM in a healthy manner, and I think it just missed the mark, unfortunately.
Well, it's funny too, even like among friends. I remember my New York City friends were like, hell fucking no. And then I'm originally from Oklahoma. They're like, that's so fucking hot. It's funny how polarizing the book and the films were. But and also I tried to read it. I was in the same like, what's the hype, man? I did not get my juices going.
I've read a lot of erotica in my day.
Yeah.
I've read lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. And because I've read so much, I'm allowed to be a little bit picky with what I read now, because I know that the good stuff is out there and I've read the good stuff. And 50 Shades just, man, it could have been something more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've read a lot.
Yes.
And maybe you've watched stuff. What erotica would you share? What is one that you would suggest to people, especially maybe newbies?
I don't have a specific title, but the erotica that I tend to actually enjoy would be Hermione fan fiction or Teen Wolf hysteric fan fiction.
When you say Hermione, is that...
I mean Draco and Hermione.
Is that Harry Potter?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's huge. And it's how I first got into smut fan fiction, I suppose, in the time. The thing is, but all of the writing that you find with fan fiction, with erotic fiction, it's people writing their fantasies, and sometimes those are great and sometimes those are not great. Sometimes you'd never actually want that in real life, but you find it really, really hot when you're reading it. And I want people to know that that's totally okay. You're allowed to read these like really dirty, nasty things in the moment and enjoy them, and just realize that that's a total make-believe fantasy that doesn't have to be expressed in real life. And this is actually a good, healthy outlet to explore those fantasies. And you can take bits and pieces from them that you'd be like, ooh, this whole scene was really hot, extremely dangerous, would never actually realistically happen, and people don't actually have those orifices, but I can take this element that I like and I can use one aspect of it in my sex life to improve it and to make it a little bit more arousing.
Yeah, I had a friend talk to me about being into tentacle porn.
I've read it.
Oh, yeah.
It's very it's very big in is it hentai in Japan? They love that stuff. Yeah.
Very
tear
very
ducts. Hot. Any pore can be penetrated.
God, tear ducts.
Good to know.
That would not be good.
Chief, do you have any erotica book or media, film, TV show that you would suggest people?
It's interesting. So, I think this is again a guy thing. Guys tend not to read too much in terms of erotica. I think we're more visual, so it's generally porn. And generally, I don't watch kink porn. I watch just normal regular porn actually. But one bit of erotica I did read that I really liked, because it plays into the psychological aspect, was it's called I forget the site, I think it's Literotica or something like that, but it's called The Busman's Holiday, and it's a story about a hypnotist who goes to a resort, and he's into not even kink, but some women there are really interested in being hypnotized, and so he slowly hypnotizes them and gets them to do all these things. So that played into a bit of DS, but also the fantasy of this having this mind power over someone. So I did enjoy that story. And then in terms of films, there's no one film that's particularly DS. I just like looking at body language, I guess. So if you watch the Daniel Craig James Bond films, it's a classic example of how you can hold yourself in a way that's very dominant without even saying stuff. So I kind of look for that kind of stuff and practice it and see if I can bring that into my everyday life.
Phantom of the Opera. That's hot.
God. Right?
That is a big DS thing. I didn't know that.
The Phantom is such a dom. Goodness.
Oh, he is, and it's hot, which I'm usually not
really
into.
Hot. It's taking it's leading Christine to the underworld. It's this very sexy idea of taking an innocent and corrupting it, and that's an idea that plays very much in DS.
Yeah, I do like corrupting innocence.
You can corrupt my innocence anytime.
Yeah. You two are amazing.
So much.
I really enjoyed myself. You enjoyed yourself, didn't you, Moineau?
Yes, Chief.
Good girl.